Silence doesn't make you strong. Healing does. Sometimes, folks, what we call strength is just pain wearing a mask. Most men believe that if they disappear long enough, if they stop calling, stop texting, and stop showing emotion, she'll miss them, regret everything, and come running back. But let me tell you something real. Silence alone doesn't make her miss you. It just gives her time to forget why she ever felt something for you in the first place. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in a dark forest at night. You're angry, hurt, and lost. So you stop walking. You think, if I just stay quiet, maybe she'll notice I'm missing and come searching for me. But here's the truth. While you're standing still, she's already learned how to find her own way out. Silence doesn't make her turn around. It just lets her get used to the quiet. See, my friends, silence can feel powerful at first. It feels like revenge. It feels like control. But most of the time, it's not control. It's confusion. You're not being silent because you're at peace. You're being silent because you don't know what else to do. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Yet most men try to control the outside, her thoughts, her emotions, her regret, while their own mind is falling apart inside. Let's be honest. You're not quiet because you're healed. You're quiet because you're scared that if you speak, your pain will spill out. You're quiet because you don't want her to see how much you still care. And that's not stoicism. That's avoidance dressed as wisdom. The truth. Real stoicism isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about learning to care without losing your peace. It's about mastering your emotions instead of being mastered by them. When your silence comes from calmness, it attracts. But when it comes from chaos, it repels. Imagine two types of silence. One is like a still lake at dawn, peaceful, reflective, magnetic. The other is like a pressure cooker, boiling underneath, but pretending it's calm on the surface. Guess which one she feels? The second one. Because energy doesn't lie. You can delete the chats, block her number, unfollow her online. But if your silence still screams pain, she feels it. Most men think no contact is the weapon. But folks, no contact without growth is like putting a bandage on a broken bone. It might hide the wound, but it won't heal it. You have to rebuild, not retreat. Because silence doesn't change her. It's supposed to change you. And when that happens, when your energy shifts, when your silence becomes peace instead of punishment, that's when she feels it. That's when your absence stops being a game and starts being a mirror. They begins to see the difference between who you were and who you've become. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So stop using silence to control her and start using it to understand yourself. Because your goal isn't to make her chase you, it's to make yourself unshakable. You see, my friends, when you use silence right, it's not about running away. It's about returning stronger. You don't disappear to punish. You step back to rebuild. You don't ignore her to make her miss you. You evolve until she can't recognize the version of you that once begged for her attention. So, if you're sitting there wondering, should I stay silent? Remember this. Silence is powerful only when it's peaceful. It's destructive when it's desperate. Use your silence to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your focus, to rediscover your purpose. Because that's what will speak louder than any words, any text, or any "I miss you." And if you're with me right now, I want you to write this down in the comments. My silence builds strength. Say it like you mean it. Because from this point forward, you're not disappearing out of pain, you're transforming out of power. Now stay with me, because what comes next will change the way you use silence forever. Number 1. Silence isn't power, it's a pause. They don't feel your silence, they feel the reason behind it. Most people think silence is a sign of strength. They believe that if they vanish, say nothing, and disappear into thin air, the other person will suddenly feel their absence like thunder. But silence, my friends, is not thunder. It's an echo, and an echo only repeats what was already said inside you. If what's inside is pain, your silence will sound like pain. If what's inside is peace, your silence will sound like peace. The world doesn't react to your silence. It reacts to the energy that your silence carries. Imagine this. You walk into a room after a heated argument. You say nothing. They say nothing. But the air? It's heavy. You can feel the tension crawling over your skin. That's not power. That's unspoken chaos. Silence didn't calm the storm. It just made the lightning invisible. Most people think that saying nothing means they've won, but that's not true. Silence without growth isn't strength. It's just suppression with better lighting. And let's be honest, deep down, you already know that. You go quiet, hoping they'll wonder, hoping they'll miss you, hoping they'll finally realize what they've lost. But you don't realize they can feel the intent behind your quiet. If your silence is heavy with desperation, they don't feel curiosity, they feel pressure. If your silence is calm and composed, they don't feel guilt, they feel respect. So ask yourself, what kind of silence are you radiating? The one that says, I'm broken and waiting, or the one that says, I'm healing and rising? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In the same way, stop trying to use silence to prove your worth. Become the kind of person whose worth speaks louder than absence. See, they won't be affected just because you've disappeared. They'll be affected when your absence starts to feel different. When your silence no longer carries pain, but purpose. That's when the energy shifts. That's when curiosity awakens. Because what makes them think again isn't your distance, it's your evolution. But here's the hard truth. Silence is easier than growth. It's easier to shut down than to face the truth. It's easier to disappear than to deal with what broke inside you. That's why people choose it. Not because they're strong, but because they're afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of confrontation, afraid of realizing that the person they want back might not return. But avoidance isn't healing. Avoidance just keeps the wound unclean. You can't rebuild connection through absence, only through awareness. You can't regain power by hiding, only by mastering what once controlled you. Think of silence like a cocoon. It's not meant to be a permanent home, it's a temporary space for transformation. The butterfly doesn't stay hidden because it's proud. It stays hidden because it's growing wings. But many people never grow. They just hide. They never heal. They just wait. And waiting doesn't create attraction. It creates anxiety. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Silence is just one possible reaction, but it only matters if it comes from the right place. If you're silent because you've risen above the noise, that's wisdom. But if you're silent because you're scared to speak your truth, that's weakness pretending to be wisdom. Ask yourself this: what if they don't notice your silence? What if they move on peacefully while you sit in emotional exile, waiting for a sign? What if your silence is giving them the closure you were trying to avoid? That's the paradox. While you're trying to make them feel your absence, they're using that same space to heal. But here's the good news. Silence can still be sacred if you use it right. Don't go silent to manipulate. Go silent to meditate. Don't retreat to be missed. Retreat to rebuild. When you use that quiet space to focus on your purpose, your health, your peace, your strength, you start to radiate something completely different. And that's when they begin to feel it, not through your words, not through your presence, but through the unexplainable shift in your energy. People can feel when you've changed. They can feel when your silence is no longer a plea, but a posture, when it's no longer fear, but faith. That's when your silence becomes powerful, not because you vanished, but because you evolved in your absence. So don't mistake the pause for the finish line. This is where your real work begins. This is where you take the silence that once hid your pain and turn it into the peace that defines your growth. You're not avoiding the storm anymore. You're becoming the calm inside it. Remember this: silence without self-awareness is confusion. Silence with self-awareness is evolution. And evolution always speaks louder than words. My friends, the goal isn't to prove your worth by vanishing. The goal is to show your worth through your evolution, because when you grow, they notice. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Because real energy can't be ignored. It's not your text, your call, or your presence that pulls them back. It's your peace. So, let your silence be your classroom, not your cage. Let it be the space where you rebuild, rewire, and rise. Because when you do, they'll feel something they can't quite explain. A shift in the air, a calm in your energy, a strength that wasn't there before. And that's when silence stops being an act and starts being your truth. Now, my friends, I want you to write this down in the comments. My silence is my strength. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your quiet no longer hides pain. It holds power. Because what's coming next isn't just silence, it's transformation. Stay with me. Number 2, the energy behind their silence. They don't remember your words. They remember the energy you left behind. Silence, my friends, isn't what moves people. Energy does. The mistake most of them make is thinking that going quiet automatically makes them powerful. They believe that if they just stop talking, stop posting, stop replying, they'll suddenly become mysterious, magnetic, and untouchable. But silence, by itself, doesn't hold power. It's the energy behind that silence that speaks. And the truth is, most people's silence doesn't whisper peace. It screams pain. Imagine this for a second. 2 people sit in the same room. Both are quiet. One sits calmly, breathing deeply, grounded like a mountain, unshaken by anything around them. The other? They're still, but inside, their mind is racing. Their heart is heavy, their thoughts are loud, and their silence feels like thunder trapped in a jar. Now ask yourself, who feels more powerful? The one whose silence feels like peace, or the one whose silence feels like tension? That's the difference the world can sense. That's the difference they can feel. Because energy doesn't lie. You can vanish from every platform, block their number, walk away without a single word. But if your silence still comes from anxiety, from fear, from emotional chaos, that energy travels faster than any text message. They can still feel that pull, and that pull doesn't make them curious. It makes them certain. Certain that you're still emotionally tied to them. Certain that your silence is just another way of chasing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The same truth applies to your silence. It carries the color of your emotions. If it's painted in pain, that's what they'll sense. But if it's painted in peace, that's what they'll respect. And I know it's hard. You might be thinking, but if I stay quiet, won't they wonder about me? Won't they miss me? Maybe for a moment. But curiosity without connection fades quickly, because silence doesn't make people miss you. Peace does. Growth does. The change in your energy does. Most people think that distance creates desire. It doesn't. Distance creates space. And space, my friends, is neutral. It will hold whatever energy you fill it with. If you fill it with resentment and waiting, that's what grows. But if you fill it with focus, progress, and calm confidence, that's what they start to feel even from miles away. Think about fire. A flame can either burn or warm. It depends on how you handle it. Silence works the same way. Used from anger, it burns bridges. Used from wisdom, it warms respect. One makes them defensive, the other makes them curious. The problem is, most people go silent for the wrong reason. They want to be missed, not healed. They want to be chased, not changed. They're not quiet because they've mastered themselves. They're quiet because they can't face their own emotions, and so their silence becomes emotional camouflage. They're pretending to be calm, but inside they're still screaming for validation. But here's where you rise above them, by turning your silence into self-control, by using it not as a weapon, but as a window into your own mind. When you stop trying to make someone else feel something and start focusing on feeling peace within yourself, everything changes. They feel the shift, not because you're gone, but because you're finally grounded. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That means you have to stop caring how your silence looks to them. Stop trying to make it appear mysterious or strategic. Instead, let it become sacred. Let it become the place where you rebuild your energy, sharpen your vision, and rediscover your balance. Because when your silence comes from that kind of peace, it becomes magnetic, effortlessly. You see, it's not about what you don't say, it's about what your presence says when you walk into a room again. It's the difference between someone who stayed silent to be noticed and someone who stayed silent to transform. The first one looks hollow, the second one looks whole, and trust me, when your energy shifts, they feel it. They might not understand it, but they'll sense it. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak slower, calmer, with direction, it makes them wonder. Not because you're trying to make them, but because your peace speaks a language their chaos can't ignore. So if your silence feels heavy right now, don't panic. It just means there's work to do. Heal the reason behind your quiet. Don't try to mute your feelings, master them, because silence can either imprison you or empower you, depending on what energy you let it carry. Let your silence be like a temple, not a tomb. A place where you go to reconnect with your power, not hide from your wounds. And when you step out again, let your peace speak louder than your words ever could. Because the world doesn't need more people who disappear out of fear. It needs people who can stay calm in the chaos and still choose dignity. That's what real presence feels like. Power without noise. So write this in the comments right now. My silence carries peace, not pain. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your quiet is no longer confusion, it's control. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to make that peace unshakable. Number 3, they don't miss the quiet, they miss the connection. They don't crave your silence. They crave the feeling they once had when your words meant something. My friends, here's a truth that's hard to swallow. They don't miss the quiet you left behind. They miss the connection that used to live inside it. People don't long for the absence of sound. They long for the presence of emotion. When you go silent thinking it'll make them miss you, what you're really doing is reminding them of what was already missing, emotional connection. See, silence doesn't rebuild what was broken. It only highlights the emptiness that was already there. If the bond between you was strong, silence feels like peace. But if it was weak, silence feels like relief. And that's what most people don't understand. They think that by disappearing, they'll create desire. But you can't make someone miss what they already disconnected from. Imagine 2 radios tuned to different frequencies. No matter how loud or how silent one becomes, the other can't hear it because they're not aligned anymore. Emotional connection works the same way. If your silence comes from pain and theirs comes from peace, you're not resonating. You're just waiting on a different channel. And that waiting, that's what destroys people. Because silence gives them too much room for imagination. And imagination without clarity breeds anxiety. You start overthinking everything. Are they missing me? Are they moving on? Do they even care? And while your mind is running marathons, they're just continuing their day, unaffected. Why? Because you're waiting on an emotional connection that doesn't exist anymore. Not yet, at least. Marcus Aurelius said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That's what silence does to most people. It traps them inside their imagination. They mistake stillness for healing, but what they're really doing is replaying scenarios, conversations, memories, hoping something changes. But silence doesn't change the past. It only reveals who's still living in it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's power in silence. But that power comes when it's used for self-awareness, not for strategy. You don't go quiet to manipulate emotion. You go quiet to observe it. To see what rises inside you when there's no reply, no validation, no external noise. That's where you find your truth. Because real connection doesn't start when they text you again. It starts when you reconnect with yourself first. Think of silence like a mirror. It doesn't lie. It shows you what's really there. The fear, the ego, the hope, the weakness, and yes, the strength that's been hiding under all that noise. And most people can't handle that reflection. That's why they rush to fill the silence, to avoid seeing themselves. But you, my friend, you're not like them. You're here because you're learning to face what they run from. Here's what most never understand. People don't miss the sound of your voice. They miss how they felt when they heard it. Your tone, your calm, your warmth, that's what touched them. Silence can't recreate that feeling. It can't spark connection. Only energy can do that. Only growth can reignite that. If you think about it, silence is like closing a book halfway through a chapter. You're hoping the other person opens it again, but what if they've already started a new story? That's why you can't use absence as your only move. You have to become the next chapter worth reading. So what should you do instead? Focus on becoming emotionally available again, not to them, but to life itself. Build new experiences, new peace, new confidence. Because once your energy changes, the story changes too. The people who once took you for granted will feel the difference without a single word. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Stop trying to make them understand your silence. Let them feel your transformation. When you evolve, they'll sense it. Not through your messages, not through your presence, but through the vibration that comes from peace. Because when your energy becomes calm, controlled and consistent, that's when connection returns. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even with the same person, but it returns where it belongs, where it's valued. And here's the best part. You won't be chasing it anymore. It'll be drawn to you naturally. You see, folks, silence doesn't make people curious. Change does. You can be gone for months, but if you come back as the same version of yourself, they'll feel nothing new. But if you come back centered, calm, and unbothered, your presence alone becomes magnetic. Because now you're not asking for connection. You are connection. You've built it within yourself first. That's what they'll feel. That's what makes them wonder what happened to them. They seem different, stronger, calmer. That curiosity is born from your growth, not your absence. Because silence might make them forget you, but evolution makes them remember you differently. Don't chase being missed. Chase being remembered. There's a difference. One depends on their emotions, the other depends on your transformation. And the truth is, when you transform, people feel it whether they want to or not. The energy of peace has gravity. It pulls everything back that's meant for you. So stop trying to use silence to create attraction. Use self-awareness to create alignment. Use growth to create peace. Because connection isn't built through games. It's built through groundedness. Your goal is not to make them miss your noise. It's to make them feel your peace. Because when someone feels calm in your presence, even your silence feels like home. That's real connection. Not chasing, not forcing, just existing with confidence. So write this in the comments right now. I build connection through peace, not through silence. Show them, show yourself, and show the world that your worth isn't measured by how loud or how quiet you are. It's measured by the strength of your energy. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to turn that inner calm into your greatest power. Number 4, the difference between avoidance and awareness. Running away doesn't make you free. It just changes the scenery of your fear. Most people think silence means peace, but silence without awareness is just avoidance in disguise. And avoidance, my friends, doesn't heal you. It just hides you. It's like sweeping broken glass under the rug. You can't see it anymore, but you'll still bleed when you step there again. You see, folks, when they go silent after pain, they tell themselves it's healing. But if that silence is filled with resentment, obsession, or hope that someone will come chasing, that's not healing, that's hiding. Stoicism doesn't teach you to run from emotion. It teaches you to observe it without drowning in it. Yet most people don't want to face what they feel. They just want to feel nothing. Avoidance feels easier. It's like hitting mute on life. You don't have to hear the noise. You don't have to face the discomfort. You don't have to see your reflection. But awareness is harder. It means sitting with your emotions long enough to understand them. It means asking yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Why did I react that way? What part of me still seeks validation? What am I trying to prove by staying silent? Because here's the truth. Silence without introspection becomes emotional procrastination. You keep postponing your healing, waiting for time to do what courage should. But time doesn't heal what you keep hiding from. Imagine standing in front of a fire. Avoidance says, turn away, pretend it's not there. Awareness says, step back, feel the heat, and learn why it started in the first place. Avoidance wants escape. Awareness wants understanding. One makes you numb, the other makes you wise. When people use silence to avoid, their emotions don't fade. They ferment. The hurt grows stronger, the resentment deeper, the memories louder. They may look calm on the surface, but inside there's a war between what they feel and what they're pretending not to feel. That's why their silence doesn't bring peace. It brings pressure. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Avoidance gives power to outside events, to the person who hurt you, to the fear of rejection, to the illusion of control. But awareness gives power back to your mind. When you face what hurts, you no longer live as its prisoner. Think about the difference like this. Avoidance is closing the door and locking it from the inside. Awareness is opening the same door and walking through it calmly. One keeps you trapped in your own thoughts, the other sets you free. But I get it. Awareness is uncomfortable. It forces you to admit things you don't want to see. It asks you to look at the parts of yourself that crave attention, validation, or control. That's hard, but that's also where strength is born. Avoidance is driven by fear. Awareness is built on courage. And courage doesn't mean you don't feel afraid. It means you don't let fear make your choices. You can't grow from what you refuse to face. Every time you avoid pain, you delay power. Because pain, when faced consciously, becomes your teacher. When ignored, it becomes your jailer. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can keep it down for a while, but the longer you push, the harder it bursts back to the surface. That's what avoidance does. It keeps emotions suppressed until they explode, often in the wrong moment, with the wrong person, for the wrong reason. But awareness lets you watch the waves. You see how emotions rise and fall, and you learn not to fight them. You learn to float. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things." Avoidance judges everything as too much. Awareness accepts everything as part of me. And when you accept, you stop resisting. When you stop resisting, you start healing. So, if your silence feels heavy, if it feels like you're holding your breath instead of exhaling peace, that's not awareness, that's avoidance. Awareness feels different. It's still. It's calm. It's like standing in the middle of chaos and realizing that not everything needs a reaction. That's when you stop trying to control others and start controlling your energy. Avoidance says, "I'll be fine if they text me again." Awareness says, "I'll be fine even if they don't." Avoidance says, "They'll regret losing me." Awareness says, "I've learned why I lost myself." That's the shift that changes everything. That's where silence stops being an escape and starts becoming evolution. When you choose awareness, your silence stops being about them and starts being about you. It stops being punishment and becomes protection. You no longer use silence to prove your worth. You use it to preserve your peace. And here's the paradox. Once you stop using silence to manipulate, it starts to actually work. Because when your silence no longer carries emotional need, it becomes magnetic. They feel it. They feel your detachment. They feel your peace. Because awareness radiates a calm energy that can't be faked. So, my friends, don't confuse avoiding emotion with mastering it. Don't mistake stillness for strength if that stillness is built on suppression. True mastery isn't about escaping pain. It's about understanding it so deeply that it no longer controls you. Your silence should be a sanctuary, not a prison. Use it to build awareness. Use it to ask yourself what you need, what you value, what you will no longer tolerate. Because when you rise from silence with self-awareness, you become untouchable. Now write this in the comments. My silence is awareness, not avoidance. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you no longer run from emotion. You master it. Because the moment you turn your avoidance into awareness, your energy changes. And once your energy changes, everything else begins to follow. Stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how awareness turns into emotional power. Number 5. Speak when it matters, not when it's easy. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something. Plato. My friends, here's where most people get it wrong. They think power means silence, and silence means control. But power isn't in how long you can stay quiet. It's in when and how you choose to speak. Because silence can make them wonder, but the right words spoken at the right time, those can make them rethink everything. Let's be real for a second. Anyone can stay quiet. It doesn't take strength to shut your mouth. It takes strength to open it with control. Stoicism isn't about saying nothing. It's about saying what needs to be said, without letting emotions spill out like wildfire. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. The waves are crashing, the wind is roaring, and you've got a message in your hand, something you've been wanting to throw out into the sea for weeks. If you throw it in during the storm, the waves will swallow it. But if you wait for calm, the ocean will carry it exactly where it's meant to go. That's how communication works. Words spoken in chaos drown. Words spoken in calm travel far. And that's the problem most people face after silence. They speak too soon. They speak from fear, from pain, from desperation to be understood. But when your emotions are driving the message, your words lose their weight. You end up saying too much, or worse, the wrong things. Because it's not about how loud you speak, it's about how centered your words are when you finally do. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Yet most people, after going silent for a while, break their silence not out of truth, but out of impulse. They confuse emotional urgency with divine timing. They reach out just to feel something, not to say something. And that's why they lose their power the moment they open their mouth. But you, my friends, you're learning something deeper. You're learning that true communication isn't reaction, it's revelation. It's not about convincing someone to care. It's about expressing truth with calmness, clarity, and confidence. When you speak from peace, your tone changes. You don't sound like someone trying to get a response. You sound like someone who already has inner resolution. And people feel that. They might not even understand why, but they listen differently because calm energy has authority. Think about it. If someone yells at you, your instinct is to defend. But if someone speaks calmly, grounded, with conviction, you lower your guard. That's why speaking with calm composure is more powerful than any form of manipulation. It doesn't force, it influences. It doesn't chase, it attracts. Picture two versions of the same moment. One where you message them out of panic, trying to fix things, and another where you reach out after weeks of reflection, centered, certain, and free of expectation. The first message says, "I need you." The second says, "I've grown." And that difference changes everything. Epictetus said, "Let silence be your general rule," or say only what is necessary and in few words. It doesn't mean silence forever. It means learning to use your voice as a tool, not as an outlet. Your voice should build bridges, not walls. It should show your evolution, not your frustration. Here's the truth most people don't face. They fear communication because they associate it with loss. They think speaking up means losing dignity, losing control, losing power. But that only happens when you speak from emotion. When you speak from peace, communication gives you power. It restores your self-respect. Because even if they don't react the way you want, you walk away knowing you express truth with grace, not with ego. And that's what maturity looks like. You don't say things to win, you say them to release. You don't communicate to get closure. You communicate to create clarity. Because clarity, not silence, is what truly sets you free. Avoiding communication doesn't make you strong. It makes you emotionally unavailable. Real strength is when you can speak your truth without letting your emotions hijack the moment. It's when your tone is steady, your message is clear, and your peace is untouched, no matter how they respond. You see, there's a rhythm to maturity, knowing when to stay silent and when to speak. Silence helps you reflect. Speaking helps you reconnect. But both lose meaning if you don't do them consciously. So the next time you feel that urge to reach out, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking to prove something or to express something real? Because when you speak with the intent to connect, not control, even your few words carry weight. And here's the thing. They'll feel the shift. They'll hear it in your tone. They'll notice the steadiness, the calm, the lack of chaos. They'll realize they're not talking to the same version of you. That's when your presence becomes powerful again. Because growth changes your voice, and your voice changes how people receive you. Remember this. Silence without reflection is avoidance. But silence followed by awareness and calm communication, That's emotional mastery. So don't rush to speak. Don't rush to prove. Let your peace mature before your words do. Then, when you finally speak, let it come from your new center, the one that no longer needs validation. Because at that point, your voice isn't chasing anyone, it's anchoring you. It's reminding the world that you're not quiet out of fear, you're calm out of strength. So, my friends, write this in the comments. I speak from peace, not pain. Say it like you mean it. Let it be your reminder that your words have power, not because they're loud, but because they're calm, intentional, and free. And stay with me. Because what's coming next will show you how distance, when used right, becomes discipline, not disappearance. Number 6. When distance becomes discipline. Distance doesn't destroy connection. It reveals whether there was one in the first place. Most people use distance like a weapon, my friends. They disappear hoping the other person will finally see their worth. They go quiet not to find peace, but to create panic. But distance, when driven by ego, isn't discipline, it's desperation. Real discipline isn't about how far you can run. It's about how calmly you can stay when you choose to step back. You see, distance only has meaning when it's filled with growth. Otherwise, it's just space. You can walk 1,000 miles away, but if your heart is still chasing them, you're not distant. You're just invisible. And invisible doesn't mean powerful. It means forgotten. Imagine a soldier retreating from battle. A wise soldier doesn't run in fear. He steps back to regroup, to sharpen his strategy, to come back stronger. But a fearful one retreats just to hide. That's the difference between distance used as discipline and distance used as avoidance. One rebuilds strength, the other loses it. When you choose distance the right way, you're not punishing them. You're protecting your energy. You're saying, I refuse to fight battles that drain my peace. That kind of decision doesn't come from pride. It comes from purpose. Most people misunderstand this. They think discipline means cutting someone off, deleting everything, blocking, pretending not to care. But discipline doesn't always mean absence. Sometimes it means presence with boundaries. It means staying calm when you could react. It means showing up for yourself instead of showing off for them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the core of disciplined distance. It's not about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about not letting your emotions dictate your moves. Think about it this way. Distance without discipline is just silence without purpose. It's like going to the gym once, then wondering why you're not strong yet. Growth doesn't come from disappearing. It comes from consistency. Every moment you choose peace over reaction, calm over chaos, stillness over shouting. That's emotional training. You're building muscle where once there was only weakness. The real test of maturity isn't how you behave when they're watching, it's how you carry yourself when they're not. Anyone can stay composed for attention, but discipline is when you remain centered even in solitude. Because the truth is, distance doesn't test their loyalty, it tests your focus. It asks, can you stay true to yourself when no one's validating you? Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Distance is that freedom. It's the art of letting go without bitterness. It's learning that peace doesn't mean separation. It means emotional independence. When you finally stop trying to control their perception of you, you regain control of your direction. Picture this. You're walking away from the noise, and at first it feels strange. You're used to checking your phone, waiting for replies, wondering what they're thinking. But as days turn into weeks, something shifts. Your mind gets quieter, your energy gets stronger, you start sleeping better, eating better, thinking clearer. That's when you realize the silence wasn't empty. It was full of lessons you couldn't hear when you were busy chasing noise. Distance done right doesn't create loneliness, it creates focus. It's like pruning a tree. You remove the dead branches, not because you hate the tree, but because you want it to grow stronger. You remove distractions, not because you're cold, but because you're cultivating clarity. And let me tell you, people feel that clarity. They sense it when your energy shifts from trying to prove your value to embodying it. They can tell when you're no longer running from pain, but walking toward purpose. That's when your distance starts speaking louder than your silence ever could. But here's the catch. Discipline will test you. You'll be tempted to check on them, to post something just to be seen, to break your own peace just to feel noticed. That's the moment that defines you. That's when you ask yourself, am I doing this for healing or for attention? Because discipline means choosing long-term strength over short-term relief. It means being okay with being misunderstood because you know your focus is bigger than their opinion. Distance becomes powerful when it's not punishment, when it's purpose, when your absence isn't to make them chase, but to make yourself grow. And ironically, that's when they start to notice, because people don't miss you when you disappear. They miss you when you evolve. So don't let distance be your escape. Let it be your evolution. Don't use it to make them regret losing you. Use it to remind yourself that you were never lost. You were just distracted. And now you're returning home to your peace. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself. Your distance is your adversity, your chance to prove yourself, to build patience, discipline, and control, to show that you can love deeply without losing yourself completely. So, if you're in that quiet phase, wondering if it even matters, it does. Every day you choose restraint over reaction. Every moment you choose peace over panic. You're training your soul to lead your emotions instead of being led by them. That's real power. That's what makes them feel your presence even in your absence. Because energy built from discipline doesn't fade, it radiates. So, write this in the comments right now. My distance is my discipline. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you don't disappear to be missed. You step back to grow. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how transformation, not silence, becomes the loudest message you'll ever send. Number 7. Their transformation speaks louder than silence. You can't make them miss the old you when the new you outshines your past. My friends, let's get honest. Silence doesn't change people. Growth does. Time apart means nothing if you're still the same person they walked away from. You can disappear for months, cut off all contact, go completely cold. But if you return with the same energy, the same habits, the same emotional patterns, they won't feel curiosity, they'll feel confirmation. Confirmation that they made the right choice. See, most people think transformation is about showing them what they lost. It's not. Transformation isn't about proving anything to anyone, it's about revealing everything you were meant to become. Silence gives you space, but growth gives that space meaning. Without transformation, silence is just distance. But with transformation, silence becomes a statement. Imagine this. A seed buried underground doesn't scream to be noticed. It doesn't post updates saying, "Look at me, I'm growing." It just breaks open quietly in the dark while everyone thinks nothing is happening. But one day it pushes through the soil, green, alive, unrecognizable, and suddenly everyone notices. That's what transformation feels like. You don't announce it, you embody it. You don't force anyone to see it. Your presence makes them feel it. When you evolve in silence, people sense it in your energy before they see it in your actions. The calm in your tone, the direction in your eyes, the steadiness in your voice. Those things tell a story louder than words ever could. Because growth, real growth, has a frequency. And when you start vibrating on that higher frequency, the people who once took you for granted start feeling uneasy, not because you've punished them, but because you've outgrown the version of you that used to need them. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The same applies here. The best response to anyone who underestimated you isn't silence, it's evolution. It's showing that the version of you they left behind doesn't exist anymore. You've upgraded your peace, your focus, your standards. You've stopped reacting to what broke you and started creating what builds you. And here's what most people don't realize. Transformation isn't about becoming colder. It's about becoming clearer. You don't grow just to become distant. You grow to become defined. You stop being addicted to chaos, to validation, to emotional guessing games. You learn how to love without attachment, how to let go without anger, and how to stay calm even when others try to disturb your peace. That's evolution. But let's be real, growth is uncomfortable. It's lonely. It's the gym for your soul. You'll feel the weight of your past pressing against you. You'll question if changing even matters. You'll miss the comfort of old habits. But every time you choose progress over pain, awareness over reaction, you're building a new version of yourself, one that doesn't crumble when life tests you again. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's transformation. You don't wait for the world to notice. You define who you're becoming and live it. You stop saying, "I'll show them," and start saying, "I'll become better for me." Because when your evolution is driven by peace, not pain, it no longer seeks validation. It creates admiration. And that's when they start to notice. They notice the silence that no longer feels like tension, but like strength. They notice how you don't engage in the same arguments, how you don't chase, how your energy feels untouchable. They can sense you're no longer trying to be seen. You've become the type of person who can't be ignored. Transformation changes everything. It shifts the power dynamic without confrontation. You don't need to prove you've moved on. Your presence proves it for you. You don't need to post about healing. Your peace makes people wonder how you got there. That's why growth speaks louder than silence, because silence can make people forget you, but transformation makes them remember you differently. The truth is, people always come back, not to your messages, but to your energy. When they see your light again, when they feel your calm again, when they realize they can't shake your presence from their thoughts, that's when curiosity is reborn. Not because you tried to trigger it, but because you embodied something they can't replicate. You see, folks, real power isn't in making them regret losing you. It's in becoming someone who doesn't need them back. Because when your energy shifts from wanting to be loved to becoming love itself, you stop chasing and start attracting. That's the shift that rewrites the entire story. So, if you're in that stage right now, where the silence feels long, the waiting feels pointless, and the growth feels slow, remember this: a diamond doesn't grow in the sunlight. It's formed under pressure, in darkness, where no one is watching. That's you right now. Every ounce of patience, every moment of reflection, every time you choose peace over pain, you're forming something unbreakable. And one day, when they look your way again, they won't recognize the version of you standing in front of them. Because you'll no longer be seeking closure. You'll be the closure. You'll be the calm they can't match, the clarity they can't find, the strength they can't shake. That's what true transformation does. It makes you unforgettable, not because you're trying, but because you've mastered yourself. So don't chase their attention. Build your evolution. Don't worry about being missed. Focus on being remembered, because growth doesn't ask for applause. It commands respect. Now, my friends, I want you to write this down in the comments. My growth speaks louder than my silence. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're no longer waiting to be seen. You're becoming the reason they look again. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how to turn your growth into quiet leadership. The kind that makes people feel your presence even when you say nothing at all. Number 8. Lead with calm, not with disappearance. True strength isn't in walking away first. It's in standing still with peace while everything else tries to shake you. My friends, here's the part that separates those who grow from those who only pretend to. Most people think leadership means control, making others react, pulling back to test them, going silent to look mysterious. But real leadership in love, in life, in energy isn't about disappearing. It's about directing. You don't lead by retreating. You lead by radiating calm when everything around you wants chaos. Because when you disappear to prove a point, you're still reacting. You're still tied to their approval. You're saying, "Look at me. See how strong I am for not speaking." But silence doesn't make you strong if it's still controlled by fear. Stoicism doesn't ask you to hide. It asks you to own your state. Imagine the ocean on a stormy night. Waves crash, winds howl, ships panic. Yet beneath the surface, the deep water doesn't move. It's still, it's steady, it's aware. That's leadership. The world, the people around you, even the ones who once hurt you, they're the waves. You're the depth. When you stop letting surface-level chaos dictate your peace, you rise to a level most people never reach. The ones who truly lead after heartbreak aren't the ones who vanish. They're the ones who stay visible but unbothered, present but not pleading, grounded but not guarded. Because calm presence creates curiosity, while disappearance creates distance. One keeps the connection alive, the other leaves emptiness behind. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In the same way, stop arguing with silence. Stop trying to prove your growth. Just be it. Walk with the quiet power of someone who doesn't need validation anymore. When they see that, when they feel that, your presence becomes undeniable. You see, folks, calmness is contagious. When you remain centered, you shift the entire emotional rhythm of the interaction. They might expect your anger, your overreaction, your desperate need for attention. But when you respond with peace, it throws them off balance. It makes them wonder, what changed? Why does this not affect them anymore? That's the moment curiosity returns. Not because you vanished, but because you evolved. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery means you no longer let others pull emotional strings. It means you can care deeply without losing your composure. You can love without fear. You can walk away without hate. Because calm isn't weakness. It's emotional power under control. And here's the secret. Calm people always win in the long run. Because when you lead with calm, you don't need to chase. The world naturally gravitates toward balance. Even they, the ones who left, the ones who underestimated you, they feel the difference. The stillness in your energy becomes louder than any argument, any silence, any "look what you lost" message ever could. But let's be honest, leading with calm isn't easy. It means giving up the short-term satisfaction of reaction. It means sitting with your emotions instead of throwing them like darts. It means allowing space for them to misunderstand you, while you remain unshaken in truth. That's what most can't do. They can fake confidence, but they can't sustain composure. Think about it. A candle flickers in the wind, but a lighthouse stands unbothered in the storm. The candle hopes someone notices its light. The lighthouse knows ships depend on it. Be the lighthouse. Don't flicker for attention. Shine for purpose. When you carry yourself with that kind of peace, you don't need to disappear. Your silence becomes presence, and your presence becomes power. Leadership isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about guiding energy. When you walk into a room calm, grounded, smiling slightly while everyone else is tense, that's dominance without saying a word. That's emotional leadership. That's stoicism alive in the modern world. So, lead with calm. When they test your patience, don't argue, breathe. When they go cold, don't chase. Stay warm in your truth. When they try to provoke, don't react. Respond with understanding. That's how you lead hearts without forcing them. That's how you influence energy without losing yours. Because true calm doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you stopped being controlled by caring. It's the difference between needing peace and being peace. And once you become peace, you don't chase, you attract. You don't prove, you embody. You don't fear losing them. You trust that whatever aligns with your growth will find its way back naturally. And my friends, that's the kind of energy no one forgets. That's the kind of presence that makes them think long after you've left the room. Because calm energy isn't passive, it's powerful. It teaches others how to treat you without saying a single word. So, from this moment forward, don't disappear to show strength. Stay calm to be strength. Don't go silent to seem powerful. Be so peaceful that your silence feels like leadership. The goal isn't to make them miss you. It's to make them respect you. Now, I want you to write this in the comments. I lead with calm, not fear. Say it like you mean it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your energy no longer depends on reaction. It flows from mastery. If this message spoke to you, my friends, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more calm leaders. And if you're still here, you are one of them. Stay grounded, stay peaceful, and remember, silence fades, but calmness commands respect forever.